Nice, wasn't it? Anyway, thank God you didn't marry Amy. Otherwise, I would not have been the best man. Now, for those of you who don't know who Amy is, that was Stuart's last love before meeting the lovely Heather. Now, actually, let me take the last love out and replace that with partner. Now, I remember the first time I met Heather. She came with Stuart to visit us, as Sonia and I wanted to meet her. It was a jolly afternoon as we played badminton and table tennis in the garden with Sarah, his sister, and my mate Gary, who shortly afterwards had a night of passion with Sarah. Just one night, that's all it was. Now, I was so surprised about how different Heather was compared to Amy. She was the exact opposite. Amy was tall. She looked like a Picasso. She was big-boned, had small breasts. She was rude, and she dressed like the sort of slut you'd see in a Jeremy Kyle programme. Now, I do remember clearly saying to them when I met them both, I said to Sonia, I said, so when is the wedding? Because Sonia will need to buy a hat. Now, Amy was hated by Stuart's parents, especially Stuart's dad. I know this as he'd often tell me, but when Heather was on the scene, he would always praise her, as we would often discuss with Julia and Sarah how lucky Stuart was and how lovely Heather was. Now, some of you may not know this, but obviously you do from Stuart's speech, that Stuart's dad passed away with a huge battle with cancer, something Sonia and I also felt part of. And in fact, we were both going through the same thing with my mum. Now, when we were all with him at the hospice, Stuart told me in private that he was going to ask Heather to marry him. Now, I knew his dad would be very happy with this, so I told him. Now, his dad was in some serious discomfort and not really able to say or do much, but when I told him what I just heard, he did crack a smile in acknowledgement of what I said, and I know he would have been very happy to be here with you today to share your wedding day. And I did tell him I would look after his family as much as I could, and I hope you guys think that I have done. Right, let's get back to the thing. Now, let's talk about Heather. When I first met her, I thought she had a great sense of humour, and she was fairly witty, something most women aren't. And I remember saying to my wife that I hoped Stuart would settle down with her, and here we are today. Of course, some marriages don't last, and I had planned to say in this speech that today will be the last best day of your married life. But since then, I've heard from my wife that on the hen do, Heather said that they never argue. So I look forward to not having to have Stuart end up in the spare room when the marriage is over. Now, normally, the best man tells people about embarrassing moments from the groom's life. Now, I haven't known Stuart since we were kids, and I'd say really we've only been in each other's lives for like the last 6 years or so, which is why I was ever so honoured to be asked to be best man. I never thought I'd be a best man, as pretty much all of my single good male friends are puffs and don't want to get married as they want to be happy forever. So really, I have no embarrassing things to say about Stuart, but I do have an embarrassing story of how I came into Stuart's life, which is through his sister. I first met Sarah in 2009 when she participated in Miss Essex FM. And I was a judge, as back then I still had my mild celebrity status. She did pretty well, came third, looked great in a bikini, saying how she wanted to save the dolphins, etc., you know. But before you ask, I didn't sleep with her. She actually slept with my mate, who was also judging, as he was a fashion photographer. She did have a boyfriend at the time. Now, my friend was living with me, and Sarah dumped her fella before she started a relationship with my friend and would stay over quite a lot. Once her ex followed her to mine and climbed up 3 stories, breaking into my apartment through the balcony of the living room while I was watching TV, and Sarah and my friend were having sex. In his bedroom, not in front of me. I nearly killed him as I tried to push him off my balcony. I guess he thought I was doing her. I remember that night, Stuart and his dad raced over to make sure everything was okay, which for me showed that they really cared. Sarah then left my friend to pursue an acting career in Los Angeles. She came back some years later, then started stripping my mate again. Actually, this is true, I had to add this in. She's got a date with another one of my mates next week. I hope this one works out, Sarah, because I'm running out of mates. Now, it has been an honour to be the best man. I felt especially honoured how at the engagement party I was referred to Heather's family as being like a brother, whereas his brother was just referred to as Graham. I have no brothers and sisters, as my parents were not too fond of their sisters, and in fact, I have never met my mum's sister, and my dad didn't even go to his sister's funeral.
No, that's mine.
I know, terrible, isn't it? So thank you, Stuart, for this honour, and Heather, you should be especially thankful to me, as I was a good boy at Stuart's stag, and I didn't do any stitch-ups, even though Kevin wanted me to. And there were no naked strippers wiping themselves over his lovely baby's smooth face. I guess now you two are married, it's back to being skint, as this day has been wonderful and classy and probably cost you a few bob or two. Now, I've only been married 5 years, and unlike you two, we do argue, but there's quite a lot, don't we? But there's no denying that my wife and I love each other, and we do what we can for each other, as I'm sure that both of you two will do as well. So I'm getting to the end of this shortish speech. And as for one, I hate long-winded best man speeches where all the flaws of the groom are told to his family and new family, but really, Stuart has no flaws. He's just a bit pasty looking, but that's about it. I know now that Stuart is focusing on getting on that housing ladder before the talk of babies are even going to be considered. But I look forward to the day to hear there is a little baby boy or girl on its way, and I only ask that you call the boy Alex after me. So I guess now it's time for the customary please rise, unless you're in a wheelchair, have no legs or are asleep, to toast Mr. and Mrs. Sutton, the newest, happiest married couple in the UK.